Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
And a good morning to you. It is March the 3rd. And I will share with you something somebody posted on social media that certainly spoke to my feelings. He wrote, I'm starting to think the only viable explanation is that we all died during COVID, and this is hell. This is hell. I could barely watch that disgusting ambush of the Ukrainian president in the Oval Office. I forced myself to watch once. I since read a transcript. I don't know what it. I have not anything that has happened thus far made me more enraged, sick, appalled than that. I literally could not bear it. I could not sleep that night. I couldn't stop thinking about it and what I'd witnessed, what had happened. Seeing the entire world order that I had throughout my life believed was stable, blown up right in my face. And I think every bit as terrifying as that was the aftermath, when so few members of the party that controls Congress pushed back. A handful, literally, a handful. I can't comprehend, and I'm sorry. I'm sure I'm not saying anything that you don't think. I cannot conceive of how these people can live with themselves, can show themselves to be such cowards I have little doubt that is what they are and what is driving their complicity. They're scared. Cowards. I don't know. So I'm sorry. It just occurs to me that I'm going to probably spend this hour like this, just in a. I'm still in a state of shock. Those two, Trump, Vance, those two vile men who'd invited Zelenskyy to the White House and then treated him with disrespect, does not even begin to conjure what they did. They mugged him, clearly choreographed. You've never seen Vance. What? Vance is there? We haven't seen Vance. When you see Trump, you see who? Musk. All of a sudden, there was Vance. And he was teeing the ball up. It was astonishing. What were they coming at him with? You haven't groveled enough. You haven't thanked us. You didn't say thank you. That's all this guy has been saying since his country was invaded. These two tag teaming that courageous man. I'll never get over the day that his country was attacked. Now, 3 years ago. And the assumption was in the world, even by all the intelligence agencies, that Ukraine would fall in days to the Russian onslaught. And there was little doubt that Putin intended to decapitate the regime in Kiev, and that Zelenskyy was target number one. And we offered to get him out. And I'll never forget him standing there with little reason to believe he would not be dead in 36 hours, standing there and saying, I don't need a ride, or whatever it was he said. I don't need a ride. I need guns. I need to fight. that man, in that moment, where his life was literally on the line, showed what courage and leadership is. Two things that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance would know nothing of. I have never felt more shame. Never in my life have I. And I, as you know, in the 60s, I felt, yes, shame that America was doing what it was doing, and I did. I have never felt the shame I feel now. It's unbearable. So, what do we do? What do we do? I, that night, I had an idea of something I could, you just feel you have to do something. By the way, if you want to do something, at noon today, people will gather outside the offices of Senator McCormick. Two words I've never said out loud. That's at 310 Grant Street, the Federal Building. At noon, specifically to address this issue, our abandonment of Ukraine and of our alliance with the Kremlin. And if you think saying alliance with the Kremlin is overstating it, I have it from the Kremlin. Right there. Kremlin spokesman says, it just, the new administration is rapidly changing all foreign policy configurations, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said on state television Sunday. This largely aligns with our vision. Any American who does not feel shame that the Kremlin feels that American foreign policy now is aligned with theirs cannot call themselves a patriot. My God. Black is white, up is down, peace is war. I also couldn't help but note reporting that said there is an agency in this country called the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Take that, all those big words in. Cybersecurity, Infrastructure Security Agency. As we all have come to understand, war now will be different. War can be fought on computers. War can be fought by hackers, by individual operators, which is why America now has something called the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Since a so-called bad actor can now, with perhaps a push of a button, take out our electrical grid, keep our airplanes out of the skies, you name it. Everything now runs on computers, and so wrenches can be thrown that will debilitate these systems. And this is how countries now toy with each other, or worse. I bring up the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, which frankly I did not know existed. I was reading an article and I kept seeing CISA, CISA. And I thought, that's, I know OSHA, I know EPA, I know, but what the heck is CISA? Well, I looked it up. That's what it is. I bring this up to tell you another piece of news. Independent journalist Marissa Kabas. By the way, it is so clear now that it is often independent journalists. It is people that are out there and they are doing unbelievably Herculean and brave reporting of what's going on. It says here that she broke the story that two members of Elon Musk's Doge are now installed at Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. And these are two guys we've heard of before. 19-year-old Edward Cordestein, known as Big Balls. 19-year-old Big Balls is now at Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency with all of the sitting in front of the computers, along with another software engineer from Musk. And what are they doing? Well, one of the things they're doing, apparently, is they are scuttling all efforts to track Russian movements that might interfere in our elections. Because one of the very important things that cybersecurity and infrastructure security has been doing since 2018 has been helping the states and local election offices assess how vulnerable they are to this kind of bad actors messing in our elections. And Musk and his big bald boys are now in the building Does this have to do with getting rid of waste in government? I don't think so. Under Trump, first time around, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency set new priorities. Russian threats, especially those against our election system, had been a top priority for the agency. But analysts were told not to follow or report on Russian threats. Never mind that Russia is our biggest adversary. So understand this right now. We are not protected. And Russia knows it. Putin is on the inside. Now, so what do we do? To do nothing is unthinkable. I've decided, I got to get to work on it today, that I've got to at least start flying some flags, publicly show what I believe. So I am going to get an American flag and I am going to hang it upside down from my second story windows. I also will get a Ukrainian flag and hang that as well. I think that makes a protest, and it seems like nothing much, but I need to put myself publicly out there. We all do. Imagine if we all started flying upside down flags outside our homes. Imagine it. And Ukrainian flags. I mentioned this to my brother, and he said, well, someone will take a shot at your house. And I thought, there it is. It's why we don't act. Fear. It's why they instill this fear. So that we edit our words, we censor ourselves, we stop before we say something that might in some way cause us some trouble. Well, then we are going down. I, I have never felt such despair. I have never come close to feeling such despair. And I've got to find ways of speaking out. Caller, if you're still there, go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. You know, I'm like you. I'm disgusted by it, but I was disgusted in the Vietnam War. I was disgusted in the Iraq invasion, which I do think this is why we're in the situation we are today, because our foreign policy overseas has been, and we've been in bed with the enemies before. If you look back at Iran and some of the things we've done some twisted shit. So, but Trump, yeah, he takes the cake. But I do believe the NATO alliance. See, Trump thinks NATO needs us, but she's wrong. NATO's strong on its own, so they're going to pick up the slack, and they're already doing, because they have more of an interest. They're closer to that than we are. I mean, it'll affect us too. We'll probably eventually have to get involved again, but I don't know if he'll be in there or what. But that's how I feel about it. I do think NATO will take care of, their part of it, our lack.
Well, listen,
That's what
I don't think things so quickly turn on a dime. Think of all those countries, and they're going to have to, the implication for each individual country of having to take money that they've been giving to their people. They have actually social safety nets over there, and they're going to be clawing some of those back and putting them into defense because they haven't had
they're
to
already
do
doing
that.
it.
They're going to have
They've
to.
been doing it.
But
They
their
have been doing it.
populations are not going to be happy with this. I don't know. See, democracy
I think they've already been doing
is
it.
a messy business. It's a messy business, and people are short-sighted, and people have power in democracies. I don't know. It could be that all these autocrats are right, that democracy is on its deathbed. I don't know. Could be. It could be.
No, I think they're already contributing over there. I really do. If you read the articles on that,
I'm not saying
and the money they spend,
but nowhere near like they'll have to. And not one of them has the power of the United States was this huge power. There's not a country over there with anywhere near that power. And they're not, the European Union is not a country. It's not, it's, no, it's, if you look, the Europeans are scared shitless right now. And they're feeling betrayed, and they're right to feel both.
Well, I don't know what the answer is. Nobody does.
No.
They make a mess of everything. I don't know what
I don't know. But listen,
no matter what,
these are not
these
are not normal times. And inasmuch as each one of us continues to act as if they are, we will be party to the destruction of this American experiment. There's no doubt about that. There are traitors in the White House. There are traitors in the Congress. There are traitors in the Supreme Court. We're infiltrated, and we're a nest of traitors that make up much of our government now. And they were put there by the American voters.
Yep.
Well,
which is there is a crooked election. It's the Electoral College. I mean, how 7 states decide elections?
Well,
it's really not a democracy.
No, it's really not. Okay. Hey, thank you. Appreciate the call.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Yep.
Bye. Bye. Anytime I see anybody stepping up, I feel such gratitude. I felt gratitude when I saw how J.D. Vance and his family were sent packing, heading off to their ski vacation in Vermont and instead greeted by enraged Americans. So that apparently, according to Fox News, they were rushed off to an undisclosed location. I don't know if they got any skiing in. I sure as hell hope not. But my gratitude to those folks in Vermont for doing exactly what they should have done. And we need to keep doing it. I thank in advance anyone going to McCormick's office in an hour. Bring signs if you can't. Bring, we've got to just spend, I don't know about you, I got time, right? I got time. And then there's the State of the Union tomorrow. What the hell? My sense was the Democrats shouldn't even show up. But, I don't know how that plays. Or then they show up and they act, because these are not normal times, like Republicans would act in the same situation. They hoot, they howl, they boo. But I suspect they won't do that. I saw that Senator Ron Wyden has said he will not attend and will instead hold a town hall. That's okay. I see that some others are planning on being there, but bringing as their guests fired federal workers. But see, that all just seems so milquetoasty. Milk toast. Normal. It's just not good enough. But I don't pretend to know what is. I saw James Carville's piece in which he argues that the best thing for Democrats to do now is to do nothing. Is the old saw about just keep giving the Republican, they're in charge. Democrats really don't have any power, so let them do what they're doing, which is eventually going to enrage a critical mass of Americans. Let them do what they're doing. Let them overreach. And then suffer the consequences. Give them enough rope. Just sit on our hands. Let them at it. The people spoke. They gave Democrats no power. They gave Republicans all the power. So back to Mencken, then let them have it good and hard. Because as Carville said, which is always known, Republicans do know how to win elections. What they don't know how to do is then do the job. They don't know how to govern. They seek power, but they don't know how to use it. Now, the current occupants of the White House believe that power should be used. Blunt force power. So don't be surprised if, in fact, we do end up going into Panama, going into Greenland. Who the hell knows? Taking Canada. I don't know. Blunt force. That's what Trump understands. We have a total shell of a government now, that we have a non-functional government. You saw the cabinet meeting, unbelievable. So all of those cabinet heads that we were also freaked about because of their extraordinary incompetence and or venality, they all were sitting there. Not a one of them had a word to say. Oh, Robert Kennedy croaked something about measles, being no big deal. But yeah, they had nothing to say. For that matter, Trump didn't have much to say. As you know, the person who held forth was Elon Musk, who holds no position. He outranks every single secretary there. You look at these people. You look at Lindsey Graham. You look at Marco Rubio. You see him sitting there in that Oval Office looking. You can tell what's happening in his head. Cowards. Fear. It's a big part of their game plan. And I see it already. I see already how it works. You see an entire party. Yeah, well, tell them to get fucked. Fear. I think it was the Washington Post, I'm not sure. Some billionaire owned mainstream media outlet had a reporter who contacted all of the Republicans in the Congress and asked them to answer just two questions. And this was after the debacle in the Oval Office. Two questions. One, is Vladimir Putin a dictator? And two, did Russia invade Ukraine? Next to none, of course, responded because they're afraid to respond. They know the answers, but the answers do not align with their Führers. It's really extraordinary. I see some of you have been writing in. Let me get to those. Milton sends this. It's nice how they've replicated the middle school dynamic of the insecure bully and his sniveling sidekick picking on someone surrounded by a circle of scared little boys who also try to talk shit so the bully doesn't come after them. Or, as the right wing calls it, masculinity. Yeah, I've been reading a lot about this masculinity thing, and I have little doubt that this is a huge part of what we are witnessing. And the masculinity that is defining the Republican Party now is a pathetic, cartoonish masculinity. It also is synonymous with misogyny. They're terrified of women with any power. They believe, truly believe, that masculinity has been threatened, and so they are reasserting it. And masculinity to them is about aggression, about power, about cruelty. There ain't anything about it that appeals to me. Their kind of masculinity is the reason that Donald Trump, our president, found time to intervene with the government of Romania to get the Tate brothers, who have been jailed there, detained there for over 2 years for rape and human trafficking and pornographic, God knows what. These are the most vile of people, but they're loved by the Trump lovers. These are guys that openly boast about branding women under their control, about pimping them out. Andrew Tate has made money teaching young men online how to do the same to women. And he's a big fan of Donald Trump. And to the millions of young men who follow Andrew Tate and then who voted for Donald Trump, it's all of a piece. And it is about this crazed idea of the worst kind of masculinity. Think of this. The President of the United States intervened with another country to get 2 sex traffickers out and back into the warm embrace of the powers that be in the United States of America. But this, if you look at that cabinet again, is an administration filled with men who have been accused of and or convicted of abusing women. The Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, the President of the United States. You know, one of the better things I read was by a guy named Sean McCreesh in the New York Times. He remarked on how Trump, at the end of the mugging of Zelenskyy, happily announced to all of us, this is going to be great television. Again, this is where we've come. President of the United States just humiliating us, not Zelenskyy, us, just blowing up NATO, just sending Valentines to the Kremlin and to China. And this is great television. That's where this guy's fucking head is. And McCreesh says this: this was not a season finale boardroom scene of The Apprentice. It was the highest of high stakes talks, one that could determine the fate of millions, the existence of a sovereign nation, and the security of a continent. But for Donald Trump, the thing that was always on his mind was the ratings. He sounded almost excited by the drama of the spectacle, as though he could feel the front pages of the world's newspapers being written in real time. This is a man, let us not forget this. This is a man who spent years yelling at people on television. It was how he made a living. He is wired to think about things in terms of great television. He is a highly conscious performer at all times. But play acting as a tough guy on NBC on Thursday nights between 9 and 10 is not the same thing as attacking an ally before the eyes of the world. Really. Unbearable. Ed writes, I was so embarrassed at the treatment of Zelenskyy. It is like we are ruled by Russian agents. Well, we are, Ed. Woohoo. I mean, we are. If Trump ain't a Russian agent, whether he knows it or not, he is. Roger, just think, only Republicans are taking Trump and Vance's side compared to the rest of the world. I want to hope Republicans are privately thinking that these two are nuts. We ask men and women to fight and die for our country and for democracy. But Republican senators and representatives are afraid to resist this administration because they don't want to lose their jobs? Well, no, they think they'll lose their lives. They know their base. They're afraid they'll be taken out. Or, yes, lose their livelihoods. Yeah. But it ain't conviction that's driving them. This much we know. It's cowardice. And when I think of my dad, that part of that greatest generation, the ones that fought these fascists, and those after them, yes, I am so ashamed. Gigi, I, like you, find that I can't get over the disgrace on display in the Oval Office. Last night, I lit my house's exterior with blue and yellow lights. I put a spotlight on my sunflower Ukraine garden flag. I wrote to all my representatives in Congress. We can all find ways to display and express our voices for democracy. We cannot be silent. Roger writes, in World War II, the Axis powers were Germany, Italy, Japan. Are the new Axis powers Russia, China, and the US? Well, there's no doubt about that. None. Trump and the Republicans are changing our alliance from the Western democracies to the bully boys. He's a bully boy. He got power and he wants to use it. So he's of a mind, the same mind as Vladimir Putin, who, by the way, doesn't have anywhere near the power, but he got a lot of nukes. And he's fueled by grievance. They understand each other. And standing off to the side and happy as a clam is, of course, Xi of China, who now knows that Taiwan is his for the taking. And while these two idiots, Russia and the US, do whatever it is they're doing, he'll take care of business, literally. Just some things I want to share that I have here. Wait a minute. A friend said Democrats in government shouldn't wear suits until the Ukraine war is over. Well, yeah, that's something you can do. But see, it just seems to me that that kind of, yeah, but it's all, yeah, fine, do that stuff, fine, but it is posturing. I I don't know. We don't have any power. Okay, here's some other stuff that I caught my eye. Headline, headlines now are just astonishing. So here's the headline where you don't have to go any further. Okay. Lobbyist for a carcinogen now has key EPA role. Yeah. Somebody who used to go to the mat for a cancer causing agent now is in charge, actually, of which chemicals will be controlled by our EPA. So it's a great day to be a carcinogen. Just wanted to let you know in case you missed that one. Here's another one. I see a picture of a good-looking black guy in a military uniform with a bunch of medals, so I knew he was somebody important. And sure, it turns out he's a general or major general. Turns out he's the superintendent of Virginia Military Institute, VMI. First black head of VMI. And you know what, guys? In this time, that just ain't gonna fly. So, yeah, the board of VMI voted Friday against allowing this black guy to head their good Southern school. They didn't even bother to give an official reason. It says here the move followed years of pushback from conservative alums who had objected to what they called General Wynn's woke efforts to increase campus diversity. Never mind that a Virginia state investigation in 2020 concluded that VMI was riddled with racism and sexism in its campus culture. In fact, they said relentless racism experienced by black cadets. But, the alum said, but hey, man, that's who we are. Can't have this woke black guy heading us, so he gone. Are there any blacks now in any positions of leadership in our military? Any? Or women? I'm serious. Look at who they're taking out. It's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. I saw that the schools, the Defense Department runs schools for soldiers' kids. You're headquartered or you're over in like Ramstein in Germany and you bring your family because you're going to be there for a while. Your kids go to school. Defense Department schools. And that school system now has made great changes. They have eliminated any group like the Hispanic group, the Asian heritage group, the Pride group. Pride decorations have been taken down. Black History Month assemblies have been canceled. I mean, there is no subtlety. These are haters. These are bigots. These are racists. And they mean to put white guys, straight white Christian guys, back where they belong, at the top of the pyramid. Some things from letters I read, letters to the editor. Perhaps what emerges most clearly from the extraordinary high numbers of federal workers who are being fired is that Trump and Musk simply have no sense of them as human beings. Yep. No sense of them as human beings with actual lives. These people are not people to them. They are just abstractions. They're numbers. Given the billionaires who run the government now, this isn't surprising because none of them have ever had to address the kinds of issues that these fired people are going to have to address. How do I pay the mortgage? How do I get health care for my kids? How do I pay for food? Nor will they have to experience the inevitable consequences of the turmoil into which these sudden firings will throw families, including divorce or poverty or suicide. But Trump and Musk simply couldn't care less because they have never cared about anyone except themselves. And all of their needs have always been met. Here's another. Reflecting on my career of 40 plus years in the corporate sector before my retirement 15 years ago, I am horrified by what I'm seeing. Never in those decades in corporate America did I observe the gleeful cruelty that this regime has unleashed. Waking up to unsigned emails suggesting you sum up your job, your worth, in a few sentences or face termination. Bogus buyout offers. Accusations of laziness. Weaponizing cruelty and uncertainty toward government employees doesn't increase efficiency. It doesn't save money or improve productivity. It is the lowest form of management possible and will only make us less safe and less secure and spread anxiety to all Americans as government programs are eliminated or rendered ineffective or even dangerous. Is this the government we want? Well, it's the government some Americans apparently wanted. Laura says there weren't enough trees on that ski slope. Yeah, apparently the Vances did find a slope to ski on. But other skiers were tormenting him, it said. Oh, to make you feel safer at a government working, I just wanted to make clear, I don't know if you saw this, the head of the EPA's, it's hard to keep up with all this, I admit it. So the head of food safety for the United States Department of Agriculture. That's to make sure you're not going to die when you buy something at the grocery store. The head of food safety is now a guy named Kyle Diamantis. And he has no prior government experience, has no and has never done anything with food safety. Oh, here it is. He's a hunting buddy of Don Jr.'s. Yeah. I couldn't believe this one. Carrie Lake is going to head the Voice of America. Okay, shoot me now. Just put me out of my misery. Don't know if you also saw, and I want to get it in. I see I've gone over, but two men with obviously some cash both took out full page ads in the New York Times on Sunday. I mean, you see the despair in so many Americans, and you can see that, like me, they're saying, "What can I do?" And these two came up with this. I'm going to spend whatever a full page ad in the Sunday New York Times costs, and I'm going to say, God, help. One of them, it's headlined "A Plea for Donald Trump to Resign." Both of these guys, by the way, identify themselves as Republicans. The one asking for Trump to resign, which is not going to happen, is a guy named Grant Grissom. He ends his full page with this: "You have refused to reject white supremacy. You have fed us a diet of anger and hatred. And in doing so, you have shown Americans of all colors, of all faiths, how dark our nation can become when our leaders act without wisdom, honor, or integrity. How precious is our democracy and the love of neighbor that Jesus commanded. Many patriotic Americans voted for you. You have betrayed them. For the sake of God and country, resign." Well, ain't gonna happen. The other full page ad was taken out by a guy named Miguel Fernandez. He is the chairman of some healthcare company. And he writes specifically to some Republican senators: Mitch McConnell, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Tom Tillis, Todd Young, and John Curtis. The Rubicon has been crossed, and I pray you recognize that. And he goes on to say, I am an immigrant, a U.S. Army veteran, a father of 5, a grandfather, a law-abiding citizen, and have been much blessed in America. My family arrived from Cuba in the 60s with nothing but love and a determination to be model citizens in the greatest country the world has ever known. For over half a century, I was a proud conservative and registered Republican. And he ends his with, the Trump administration's assault is moving with head-spinning speed. If we don't stop them now, we may never have another chance. Our best hope is for a group of Republican senators to find their courage and their voice to stand up together in opposition to this takeover of our country. You have the power. Say no to actions that undermine our Constitution. Assert oversight of this administration that is running wild over the rights of the American people. If you band together, we the people will support you. You will be American heroes at a time when we desperately need heroes. You can turn back the tide of tyranny and restore our country to one based on truth, justice, and the rule of law. Your country needs you. Cries from men with lots of money who were Republicans I'll just hang a flag. But all of us have to do something every day and keep on doing it. We cannot let these vile, vile men destroy this country. We cannot. I will hear no words of powerlessness. We cannot let this stand.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.